if you're hearing this, I'm probably already gone. I don't know how much time I have before they notice I'm speaking, before the static eats this recording, before whatever's crawling just outside this room finally slips through the cracks. But you need to hear me. You need to understand why I'm saying this. Promise me one thing: never, ever open random files on the dark web. I know how it sounds. Another internet ghost story. Another creepypasta you'll scroll past before bed, chuckle at, and forget in the morning. But I'm not writing this to entertain you. I'm writing because I have no one left to warn except strangers who might be stupid enough to repeat my mistake. Something was unleashed the night I clicked that folder. Something that doesn't belong in pixels or code. It's too late for me. I can hear it even now, whispering from the dark corners of my own house, bending the walls around me, replaying my own voice back to me in ways I can't describe. You don't believe me yet, that's fine. I wouldn't either, but think about this. How many times have you brushed off a headline about a missing student, a sudden offline disappearance, a post that vanishes right after you've clicked it? You think it's coincidence, random tragedies, but they're not random. They're traces. Every single one of those stories started with someone doing what I did, clicking something they shouldn't. The first file was almost nothing, just noise, static. I thought it was corrupted. But then there was a face in the blur, familiar, wrong, like it was leaning out of the screen to watch me back. The second file, God, I shouldn't even tell you. The second file was worse. And the last one, no, I can't, not yet. That's the problem, though. The more you know, the more it notices you. Even listening to me now, even letting these words enter your head puts you at risk. I should stop. I should shut up before I drag someone else down with me. But if I stop, nobody will ever understand what's really happening here. I'm not the first, and I won't be the last. The files are still out there, passed around, buried in forums you'll never stumble on unless you're curious enough, bored enough, desperate enough to look. That's why I need you to swear to me right now. Swear you'll never click something you don't understand. Swear it. Because once you do, there's no undo. To understand how it started, I need to go back. Before everything unraveled, my life was so ordinary. Painfully ordinary, actually. I'd wake up, drag myself through another day of classes or work, come home, and kill the hours with whatever screen was closest to me. I wasn't special. I wasn't brave. I was just another face glowing in the blue light of a monitor at 2 in the morning, drinking caffeine I didn't need, scrolling through forums I shouldn't care about. It's funny how boredom becomes dangerous when you feed it. Most people just binge Netflix or doom scroll until their eyelids give up. But me, I wanted more. I craved something different. Some secret hidden beneath the surface of the web that most people never dared to touch. Not money, not clout, just proof. Proof that the internet still had shadows big enough to get lost in. I'd always been fascinated by those urban legend corners of the internet. The cursed videos, the vanished websites, the threads that end mid-sentence and never return. You know the type. Someone posts about a haunted game, a username that keeps reappearing across platforms, or a VHS tape that should have never existed. 99% of it is fake, sure. But that 1%, the stories that feel too specific to be invented, those haunted me. They whispered at me, daring me to dig deeper. That's what nights were like for me back then. The world outside was quiet, but in my head I was chasing ghosts across message boards. I told myself it was harmless, research, entertainment, the kind of creepy stuff you laugh about the next day. But curiosity doesn't stay harmless, not forever. It started small, searching obscure forums, reading how-to posts about the dark web. At first, it was all surface-level chatter, horror stories, myths, half-baked guides written by people who wanted to sound like experts. I thought I was smarter than them, more cautious. I told myself I'd just look, never touch, just scratch the itch without getting infected. Still, the idea grew in my head. The dark web, the hidden layers, a place you couldn't reach with Google where normal rules didn't apply. Everyone online treated it like Pandora's box. Don't look inside unless you're ready to deal with what crawls out. And the more I read warnings, the more I wanted to see for myself. You'd think that would have been enough to scare me, to close the tab, delete the thought, and go back to watching trash TV. But here's the truth. Warnings don't work on people like me. They're invitations dressed as threats. The more I heard "don't," the louder my brain screamed, "Why not?" So I gave in. I told myself it was an experiment, just a quick peek. I'd download Tor, run it once, poke around, then uninstall it. No harm done. No different than sneaking into a locked room just to say you've been there. That's all it was supposed to be. I didn't know then that curiosity isn't just a door you open, it's a chain reaction. Once you turn the handle, you can't stop what follows. And for me, that first download, that was the moment the fuse was lit. The first time I launched Tor, I half expected alarms to go off. Not on my computer, but outside my window, like the FBI would come crashing through the door the second the browser opened. Of course, nothing happened. The fan hummed, the screen glowed, and there it was, a doorway into the part of the internet people only whispered about. It didn't feel thrilling, not at first. It felt wrong. The interface was ugly, clunky, stripped of all the polish I was used to. Gone were the sleek fonts and tidy layouts of the surface web. Instead, everything looked stitched together with old code, like I'd fallen into a graveyard of forgotten websites. And every page carried the same warning vibe, like they wanted me to leave before I even started reading. Still, I pushed deeper. There were the expected things, the stuff every article promises you'll find. Black market storefronts with grainy photos of weapons, pages selling counterfeit documents, half-baked hitman for hire, ads that looked more like scams than threats. I scrolled past them with detached fascination, not really believing any of it was real. But other sites felt real in a way that made my skin crawl. One page was a forum filled with nothing but cryptic phrases, strings of numbers and coordinates. Replies were short, like coded messages passed back and forth between ghosts. Another page advertised live experiences, though the descriptions were intentionally vague, just enough to imply you'd see something you could never unsee. And then there was the art. God, the art. Endless galleries of images, distorted figures, faceless portraits, things drawn with shaking hands. Some looked like children's sketches, others like medical illustrations gone horribly wrong. Every image had a date but no signature, as if whoever made them wanted to be remembered without being known. I should have logged off then, closed the browser, deleted the program, and gone back to my safe, ordinary life. But curiosity, it's a disease, and once it's in you, it spreads. I clicked deeper. Links led to more links, each page uglier and stranger than the last. I felt like I was wandering down a staircase that would never end, and then I found it. At first glance, it looked boring, a simple directory page. No flashy banners, no edgy warnings, just a plain black background with a list of files. Dozens of them, all unnamed. No titles, no extensions, just strings of random characters, like gibberish a keyboard might spit out if someone slammed their fists on the keys. But there was something about it, something that made my stomach drop the second I saw it. The page wasn't linked anywhere. It felt buried, hidden. And yet here it was, waiting for me like a trapdoor left open in an empty room. Why was it there? Why was it untouched? The rest of the dark web had a logic to it. People selling, people buying, people posturing. This wasn't that. This was personal. Like I'd stumbled across someone's private folder, a collection never meant for strangers. I hovered over the first file, my finger tense on the trackpad. Every rational thought screamed at me to leave, to back out, to forget it existed. But another part of me, the reckless, hungry part, couldn't let go. What if these files were the 1%, the thing nobody else had found? That's the poison of curiosity. It doesn't let you settle for what if. So I clicked. That's when I clicked the first file. The file took a few seconds to load, which only made me more anxious. The screen went black, then flickered with static like an old VHS tape struggling to play. At first I thought it was broken, a corrupted video, nothing special. But then the sound kicked in, low, crackling, almost like someone whispering too close to a microphone. I leaned in, trying to make sense of it. The whispers weren't in English, or at least not any language I recognized. They were too fast, layered, like dozens of voices speaking over each other. Just as I was about to close it, an image appeared. A face. Only for a split second, but I swear I saw it. Pale skin, dark eyes, mouth twisted into something between a smile and a scream. And here's the part that really unsettled me. I thought I recognized it. Not exactly, not clearly, but familiar in the way a stranger on the street can sometimes feel like someone from a dream you can't fully remember. "Dude, what the hell are you watching?" The voice snapped me out of my trance. It was my friend Marcus, who I'd left sitting in a Discord call while I explored. I'd forgotten my mic was still on. Nothing," I said, fumbling for words. "Just some video file I found." "On the dark web," he laughed. "You're insane. That's how you get your laptop bricked or, I don't know, arrested." "No, it's not like that. It's just static and creepy whispers. Doesn't even make sense." "Yeah, well, maybe there's a reason nobody's watching it," Marcus said. "Seriously, if it's boring, close it. If it's dangerous, definitely close it. You don't win either way." I didn't answer him right away, because even though the file looked like nonsense, there was something beneath it. In the static, I kept seeing patterns, shapes flickering, frames so brief they barely existed. At one point, I froze the screen, certain I'd caught another face, but when I looked closer, it dissolved into noise again. "Man, you're quiet," Marcus said. "You're not like hypnotized, are you? Do I need to call somebody?" "Shut up, it's just weird, okay? I think there's something hidden in it." "Oh my God," Marcus groaned. "You're that guy, the one who thinks random pixels mean aliens. Next you'll tell me you've cracked a government conspiracy." I almost laughed, but the sound on my speakers grew sharper, like the whispers knew I was distracted. One voice rose above the others for just a second, clear enough to make out. It said my name. I froze. It was Marcus. It wasn't me. It came from the video. Just a single word, my name, before dissolving back into the mess of static. I didn't tell Marcus. He already thought I was losing it, and maybe I was. I convinced myself it was coincidence, random noise, my brain forcing patterns where there weren't any. But I couldn't stop staring. The video ran on a loop, cycling through the same 30 seconds of static, whispers, and broken frames. Still, each time I watched, I caught something new. A hand reaching. A window I could have sworn looked like mine. A flash of streetlights I recognized from my own neighborhood. It was like the file was stitching itself together from pieces of my memory. Finally, Marcus sighed. "All right, genius, I'm going to bed. Don't call me when your computer starts bleeding, okay?" His voice cut out as he left the call, leaving me alone with the static. I should have followed him, closed the browser, shut off the computer. But I didn't, because deep down, I couldn't shake the feeling that the video wasn't broken. It was designed that way. Like someone wanted me to dig through the noise and find what was hidden inside. And if this was the first file, I needed to see the others. That's what I told myself anyway. Curiosity overpowered fear, and I clicked on the next one. The second file loaded faster than the first, almost eager to show itself. This one wasn't static, it was a cartoon. At least it started that way. I recognized it instantly, some cheap rerun from Saturday mornings when I was a kid. The bright colors, the goofy background music, it should have been comforting, nostalgic even. But something was off. The voices were pitched wrong, slowed down so the characters sounded drunk or sick. Their eyes didn't point in the same direction. And then, halfway through what should have been a harmless slapstick gag, the sound cut out completely. The animation lingered too long on one frame. A character staring directly into the camera, eyes widening, smile curling into something sharp. Then the blood started. Not cartoon blood, real blood. It didn't match the animation style, didn't even blend with it. It was footage of something real, spliced in between the frames, dripping across the screen as though it had seeped in from another world. I slammed the space bar to pause, but the video kept playing. "Jesus Christ," I muttered. Marcus's voice crackled back through Discord. "What now?" "Just messed up edits," I said too fast. "See, this is what I mean. Internet's full of psychos with bad After Effects skills. Close it." But I couldn't, because the next cut wasn't gore, it was a face. Not animated, not fake. A real person, eyes rolled back, lips moving like they were whispering. I only saw it for a second before the screen cut back to cartoon laughter, but it felt too raw, too authentic to be staged. The third file was worse. It opened to a black screen. For a moment, I thought it was another corrupted mess. Then the camera adjusted, grainy footage resolving into a dimly lit bedroom. Not just any bedroom. Someone's bedroom. A girl, maybe 19, asleep under a blanket. The camera was angled from the corner of the ceiling, like it had been mounted there without her knowing. I felt sick. The video ran for 10 minutes, nothing happening except her breathing in her sleep. At the end, the door creaked open. A shadow leaned in. The recording stopped before I could see more. "Okay, I'm serious now," Marcus said, his voice sharp. "Close it, that's not funny, that's not fake either." But my mouse was already hovering over the next file. I hated myself for it, but I couldn't stop. Because each video felt like a breadcrumb, leading deeper into something that wasn't meant for me, but was. The fourth file confirmed it. At first, it was just more shaky footage, streetlights glowing, a car idling at an intersection. Harmless, until the camera panned. My stomach turned to ice. It was my street. I knew the cracked sidewalk, the dented mailbox, the leaning stop sign at the corner. The footage was shot from across the road, pointed directly at my house. The lens lingered on my front door for almost a full minute before the video cut to black. "Bro, no," Marcus said, his voice low now. "That's not real. Tell me that's not your place." I didn't answer, couldn't. My throat was too dry. "You need to shut it down. Delete everything. Don't click another one. I'm not joking anymore." He was right. I knew he was right. My chest was tight, my hands shaking over the keyboard. Every instinct screamed to stop, but over all that, louder than the fear, came the hunger. Because if the fourth file showed me, then what about the rest? What else was buried in this folder, waiting for me to uncover? I should have stopped at file 4. God, I should have stopped. But I didn't. I clicked on the next one, the final file. And that's when everything broke. The file didn't look special. Just another line of gibberish text in the directory, same as the rest. But the moment I clicked it, everything slowed down, like the computer itself was hesitating, like it knew what I was about to see and wanted to give me one last chance to back out. I didn't. The screen went black. Not the casual black of an unlit video, but something thicker, like a void. For a long moment there was nothing, just silence. I thought maybe it was broken. Then white letters began to appear, one by one, as though someone were typing them directly onto my screen. It was an address. My address. Every number, every letter exact. My stomach dropped so hard it felt like the floor had vanished beneath me. I ripped my headset off and stared at the screen as the text dissolved into static. And then the video shifted. The camera wasn't anywhere else in the world. It was here, in my room. I watched myself sitting at my desk, eyes wide and pale in the glow of the monitor. My movements synced perfectly. When I leaned back, the figure on screen leaned back. When I raised a trembling hand, the figure raised his. I was watching myself, watching myself. "No, no, no, no," I whispered, scrambling for the mouse. I tried to close the window, but the cursor wouldn't move. The screen just pulsed with static, clearing every few seconds to show me again, frozen in some impossible loop. That's when the audio started. The whispers from the earlier files had been garbled, layered nonsense. But this was sharp, deliberate, echoing like 1,000 voices pressed against the inside of my skull. "We see you." I flinched so hard the chair nearly tipped. The voices spoke in perfect unison, louder with every repetition. "We see you, we see you." I tore the headset off, but the sound didn't stop. It wasn't coming through the headphones anymore. It was everywhere. In the hum of the fan, in the creak of the walls, in the back of my teeth. Panicked, I lunged forward and yanked the power cord from the tower. Sparks jumped, the screen flickered off, then back on again. Static. And behind the static, my face. Only now it wasn't copying me. It was smiling. Wide, sharp, unnatural. I stumbled back from the desk, heart hammering. The monitor glowed like a spotlight, illuminating every corner of the room that suddenly felt too small, too crowded. The figure on screen leaned closer, pressing its distorted face against the glass. Its lips moved, and though I couldn't hear it directly, I knew what it was saying. The same phrase, the same promise. "We see you." And here's the part that still makes me sick, the part I don't want to admit but have to. It wasn't just talking to me. I could feel it stretching through the screen, through the cables, through the signal. Like it wasn't contained in my room anymore. Like it could see anyone watching. Like it could see you. Right now. I don't know how long I stood there, frozen. Could have been seconds, could have been hours. All I remember is the lights flickering, shadows shifting in the corners, the air growing thick like the room was filling with smoke I couldn't breathe. My vision tunneled until all I could see was the screen and that grin staring back at me. I don't remember sitting down again, but suddenly I was there, in the chair, face inches from the glass. My reflection and the thing inside it blurred together until I couldn't tell where I ended and it began. The whispers reached a pitch that rattled my bones. The screen pulsed white, then black, then white again. I thought I was going to black out. Maybe I did. When I came to, the room was silent. The computer was off, the monitor dead. Everything looked normal, as if nothing had happened. But I wasn't normal anymore. I knew it the second I caught my reflection in the dark screen. For just a moment, just long enough to make me doubt my sanity, I saw it smiling back at me. That was the last moment I felt like myself. At first, I thought it was just shock. That lingering static in my head, the way the shadows in the corner seemed to crawl when I wasn't looking. It had to be adrenaline messing with me, right? But then things started happening that I couldn't explain away. The computer turned itself back on, not just once, again and again. I'd unplug it, rip the power cord clean from the wall, and still, hours later, the screen would glow to life. No startup chime, no login screen, just that static. And sometimes, buried inside the fuzz, a face I didn't recognize would flicker for a heartbeat too long. Not mine. Not anyone I'd ever seen. Strangers, hundreds of them, all staring back. My phone started buzzing at odd hours too. Blank notifications, no caller ID. When I checked, I'd find emails waiting in my inbox. The subject lines were strings of numbers, GPS coordinates, dates, and inside, my own personal details. Childhood photos, long deleted posts, fragments of conversations I hadn't had in years. They knew everything. I reached out to my friend, the one I'd been sharing all this with on Discord. No answer. At first, I thought he was just pissed at me for ignoring his warnings. But then his profile went gray. Messages hung on sent but never delivered. It was like he'd been erased. That silence was worse than any static. The longer I stayed in that room, the less it felt like mine. Shadows stretched unnaturally long across the floor, sliding against the light instead of away from it. I'd hear footsteps packing in the hall when I was alone. Once, while staring at the darkened screen, I swore I saw the reflection of someone standing right behind me, too tall, too thin. I didn't dare look over my shoulder. I told myself it was sleep deprivation paranoia, the kind of fear that gnaws your brain raw until you start inventing monsters to explain it. But deep down, I knew. That file hadn't just shown me something. It had opened something. The last straw came one night when I worked up the nerve to check the emails again. A new message sat at the top, time-stamped seconds earlier. No subject line, no sender, just 2 words in the body. Check outside. I don't know why I listened. Maybe because fear makes you obedient. Maybe because curiosity still hadn't died even after everything. But I went to the window. The street was empty. No cars, no people, no sound. Too empty, like the world had been vacuum sealed. And then I realized something worse. The message wasn't telling me to check outside the window. It was telling me to check the front door. I won't tell you what I saw when I finally opened it. Not yet. Some things you can't unknow, and I've already given you more than I should. But I will tell you this. That was the moment I stopped thinking of this as just a story, a weird brush with the dark web, some creepy files. That was the moment I knew it wasn't about the files at all. It was about me. And maybe it's about you too. Because if you've made it this far, if you've been listening, leaning closer, waiting for the next piece, you've already stepped across the line I crossed. The one where curiosity isn't innocent anymore. The one where knowledge makes you visible. I used to think paranoia was a sickness, that the human brain just short-circuits in the dark, inventing threats to explain the things it can't see. But now I think paranoia is a signal, a warning system, firing alarms that something real is watching. And lately, those alarms never stop. The shadows still move. The devices still hum awake in the dead of night. The emails still arrive. I don't check them anymore, but I feel them, like whispers building up behind a closed door, waiting for me to listen. And my friend, he never came back online. Sometimes, when the static gets loud enough, I hear his voice mixed in with the others. Begging, screaming, or worse, laughing. That was when I realized this is just mine to carry anymore. It's not just my paranoia, my consequences. The thing that followed me out of that final file doesn't stop at screens or walls. It spills. It spreads. And by telling you this, I've already let it bleed into your life too. I'm sorry, but I had to, because if I keep it locked inside my head, it wins. If I don't warn you, you'll make the same mistake. You'll click the wrong thing, follow the wrong link, open the wrong file. And then it won't just be watching me. It'll be watching you. That's why I'm confessing. That's why I'm warning you. Because the only thing worse than living with it is letting you stumble into it blind. I don't know how to finish this without sounding insane, but honesty is the only thing I have left. I made a stupid choice and it unraveled the life I thought was ordinary. I told myself I was researching, that I was safe. Those excuses lasted until the last file. They shattered instantly. I need you to know I haven't solved this. If anything, I made it worse. There's a thread tied to me now, something that echoes my voice, that uses my accounts like relay stations. My phone shows messages I didn't send. Sometimes I hear my recorded voice in places I never recorded. I admit it. I might already be compromised. Saying that out loud feels like handing keys to a stranger, but secrecy is how this spreads. You probably follow other channels, send in anonymous cases, or argue about lost tapes in comment threads. If you've ever shared a clip with a name made of gibberish, check it again. I'm not asking you to trust me blindly, just look. If these files are still circulating between accounts and servers, pretending they don't exist only helps them hide. If you find one, do not open it on your main machine. Don't forward the file. Share hashes or screenshots, not the media itself. I know this is dangerous to say. Pointing someone toward what hurt me is risky, but silence feels worse. Memory and community are how we survive corners like this. If you've seen similar files, leave a timestamp in the comments. Tag the people who keep archives. Offer theories. Even a small detail can become a clue. Prayers and small rituals matter too, absurd as that might sound. The internet remembers numbers and names, but it forgets faces. Remember the names of disappearances, the little oddities in posts, dates, usernames, weird characters. If I vanish, I want someone to be able to trace the pattern I left behind, to say, "He saw this. He warned us." This is me begging for solidarity. I'm asking for theories, for screenshots, for any scrap of context. If you think it's supernatural, tell me. If you think it's a human operation, tell me. I need an army of watchers, not echoes. And yet I have to be clear, do not seek this out. Don't dig because you think you can beat it. Curiosity doesn't make you clever, it makes you visible. Walk away. Close tabs. Archive safely. Warn others without forwarding the infection itself. If this channel goes quiet, remember this post. Remember that someone tried to say something aloud. Remember me not as a punchline but as a warning. If I disappear, follow the breadcrumbs. Usernames, timestamps, hashes. Maybe someone can finish what I started. I don't want to leave you with a cliffhanger, but some things refuse neat endings. Keep your doors locked. Keep backups offline. And if you ever find a file with a name that looks like gibberish, don't open it. Walk away. If you've been here a while, use the old callbacks, red room, glitch tape, and check those threads. Drop a line if you've seen anything like this. Turn whispers into evidence. Then do one last thing for me. Promise you won't open the files and that you'll remember this warning. Please, it matters more than you. I heard the whisper again before I felt it, a thin, familiar rasp curling from the vents, from the dead speaker grill, from somewhere behind the drywall. For a moment I thought my brain had slipped back into that loop, that memory and present had replayed. But it wasn't the distant audio of a file on a screen. This sounded closer, as if whatever had been in the video had stepped through the glass and stood behind me. My skin went cold. I turned slowly, not wanting to startle whatever trick my mind had manufactured. The hallway was a black smear, moonlight cutting thin lines across the floor. Nothing moved, only the house breathing, the clock coughing out seconds. Then the whisper came again, clearer now, shaping words I had heard before and never wanted to hear. It said my name, then folded into laughter, an odd, wet cackle that wasn't mine. I felt it crawl along my spine like a live thing. My mouth went dry. My hands trembled. I wanted to bolt, to slam every door, to smother the sound, to flee. Instead, my feet stayed rooted, as if the room had grown roots and anchored me. A stubborn, stupid part needed to know whether it was the same voice, the same trick. I waited with my back to the doorway, listening. The whisper shifted, moving around the room, circling. For a heartbeat it drifted into the cadence of that first file, voices pressing into syllables until they tasted like static. Then, impossibly, it added a new clause, an instruction that made my stomach twist. "Remember us," it breathed soft and glad, "tell them." I could have answered, I could have promised to forget. Instead, the words clawed into my throat and came out ragged. I promise," I said, and saying it felt like a transaction. Silence fell, heavy, then shattered by a crackle that might have been laughter, might have been static. The screen flared with a white pulse that felt like a heartbeat, then tore into a million flecks. I don't know if you can hear me now, but if you can, please, remember, tell someone, close the tab, walk away and do not return. If you find those files, don't open them, promise me. I mean it, this is no test. The last thing was a smear of black and snow, static swallowing everything, and then nothing.